Mike, thank you for sitting with me. I know your time is very limited right now, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. There's a lot to be said, and it's impossible to tell the last few years in an hour or a half an hour, but we're going to try.
Okay.
In your words, what's happened? In your words.
Well, in my words, a lot has happened, obviously. I was involved in an investment that went terribly. I was introduced to the investment by a family friend.
Okay.
And, because it came as a strong recommendation and referral, I said, well, why not? Gave my own money, got involved, and as time went on, I was encouraged to tell other people about it, friends and family and things like that. My goal was never to try to profit off of anybody else, just wanted to be a blessing. I mean, music production, that's my repertoire, that's what I do, and so that's what I'm most focused on. And so it's just a situation that got out of hand, and there have been a lot of rumors and things reported as facts that are fictitious, and I'm glad that you were able to come and speak with me so I can be able to clear some of those things up.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here. I dropped everything and got a couple tickets and very expensive tickets. And but I made it here because I wanted to be here for you. I've known you a few years. Always been a good guy. Always had a smile. Always had a joke or whatever. Lately, you've been in the news. And that news has been on YouTube, and that has been on Facebook, and
Absolutely.
that has been on Twitter, and all of this. And the whole thing has been surrounded around an investment gone bad. And, I was involved in YTB. When I heard about this, when I heard about the whole situation, and I'm not making light of it, and I'm not, for those who have been affected by this, I'm not making light of it, but I was involved in YTB. And that was some type of travel agency thing, and a lot of church people got involved in YTB.
Yes.
How do I know? Because someone in the church approached me about it and encouraged me, because I have a lot of people who follow me, who watch the show, and they figured, Lexi has 1,000 people or more or this and that. She'd be good for YTB.
Absolutely.
So I did the same thing. I went for it.
Right.
Would you think that was the same type of thing? Because YTB was a pyramid thing. I get somebody, I pay my money, which is what you did, right? I invest, and it says I get my own travel agency, and then I encourage people to, same thing, same words, I encourage people to do their travel on my site. Absolutely. And I also encourage people to sign up under me, who become my team leaders, and then I'll get money from that.
Yes.
Would that be accurate? Does that sound like the same thing?
It's interesting because I was in YTB as well.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, again, music is my thing.
Yeah.
I was approached by, my barber who told me about YTB.
Okay.
I jumped in, and it wasn't the first time that he told me about it. It was like the 15th time. I said, all right, you got me.
You're right.
Got involved and told some people about it.
Sure.
And they got right involved and started breaking records in YTB. I really wasn't even trying to do that.
Right.
But because of the network and because of the influence,
Sure.
people started to get involved.
Yeah.
But then over time, there was work that's required in order to maintain.
Yes, or to see more money. Same thing with me. And I didn't have the time because, like you, I'm in music as well, and I just didn't have my whole life to give. People were going on trips. They were doing getaways for the big leaders in YTB. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And I wanted that. I wanted that. And I just, I couldn't get there.
Well, what I was going to continue to say is that there were people in my quote unquote downline who they just weren't making anything out of it. And so when this other opportunity was presented to me, this oil investment, I said, wow, this would be a way for those disgruntled people who are in my downline to be able to make some bucks and they don't have to do the work that's required in YTB.
Wow.
So again, my heart throughout the whole process was, how can I be a blessing to someone else?
Right.
I feel like I've been blessed in so many ways in my life, and my heart has always been to give.
Right.
You know, I've been a pillar in the Detroit community, assisting the youth, mentoring, holding classes to allow people to have other crafts outside of just the traditional being an artist in the music business.
Yes.
Just blood, sweat, and tears, just given to the city, because that's the city that I love.
That's right.
And so this one came back to bite me, because I was the middle person between the gentleman, Tim Hunt. He's the one that started the investment.
Okay.
And he was the one that I was referred to by my friend.
Okay.
And so people who knew me, people who were in my downline, I told them about the opportunity, because that's the way it was presented to me.
Right.
And so they were giving their money to me, and I was in turn giving it to Tim.
Okay.
Well, fast forward, after people are excited, flowers are being sent to the office, everybody's happy. They're getting their families and everything involved. I get a call from Tim stating the investment is over. And I said, okay. He said, and the other part is the money that I owe you, it's gone. And I said, well, wait a minute. Well, what do you mean it's gone? Who has it? He said, look, the plug has been pulled on my link to this oil investment. And I said, oh my goodness. All I could think about were the people
Right.
who had trusted me with money. And they don't know Tim. They know me.
You.
And then having this last name that has some type of notoriety, I just knew that I was in for a rude awakening. And so I said, well, there are hundreds of thousands of dollars that's owed today to people.
Wow.
You know, I don't have any lag time to say, well, what am I going to do now?
Right.
I have to make a decision now. So I had to dig into my music production money.
Right.
And I exhausted all that to pay people back.
Wow.
What has not been reported is that more than 75% of the money that I received has been paid back.
Has been paid back to who, Mike?
To the people who actually invested with me.
The actual person, not a downline person.
Well, no, let me let you know, I dealt with principal people.
Yeah.
It was less than a couple dozen people that I dealt with. Okay. So people that you've seen on the news saying that they gave me their life savings and they gave me their kids' college tuition, I don't know those people. Okay. They didn't give it to me. And because there was no documentation required in my case to prove that, then, and I also pled guilty out of the advice given to my attorney, it made it look like I was guilty of everything that was reported. Most of these people never gave me a dime, but they saw an opportunity, a deep pockets, sensationalized case to just put their claim in. And once word got out that there was no documentation required, that all went toward the restitution amount that I was ultimately given a sentence on.
Wow. Because when the news did report this, like you said, people said, well, I gave $70,000, I gave $30,000, I gave $7,000. But the news also reported that some of these people did double their money. So I don't think the whole story really hasn't been told or really emphasized on. There are a lot of people that did get their money.
Absolutely. More people than not. Again, there's so many fictitious and erroneous claims. And if people don't have to provide documentation and it becomes a he said, she said thing, and it becomes popular to say that Mike Winans has your money, that's what people will do. Wow. And that's exactly what took place. Now, I didn't say that I was blameless in the situation. One of the mistakes that I did make is once I found out that the investment was no longer, I didn't report it to the authorities. I mean, I'm a 25-year-old kid at the time. I'm like, I'm not trying to go to the cops and create any scene. And truthfully, there are people who are owed money, and it's not because of the decisions that I made. Well, partly because I trusted this person, but it wasn't anything intentionally done to harm people, not to be a swindler or someone that goes out and tries to hurt church people.
Sure.
And he's in church pulpits, all of these different things, unfounded, no documentation whatsoever, just hearsay. Right. And I was advised by my attorney to not speak at all, to say absolutely nothing. And I'm an expressive person. Right. So to look and watch my character be just torn to shreds and not be able to even vocalize myself, oh man, it was really tough.
That had to be a tough one, especially when you constantly hear things about yourself.
Absolutely.
Even without a criminal case. When people say anything about you, you want to defend yourself. That's a natural thing that any of us would want to do.
Right.
And now to have criminal, actions, brought against you, and then the whole slander, and not knowing the full story, and not being able to say, wait, that's not true.
Absolutely.
That was tearing you up inside.
It was tearing me up inside. I really wanted to speak, but I was advised not to speak. My attorney, he didn't fight for me. He didn't present any evidence that I had. I have actual bank records that prove to you what I'm saying is true. This isn't Mike's word against all of these people's word. This is a money case. All we have to do is look at the records and we'll come up with what actually took place.
What will your bank statements prove? What does your bank statement show?
Well, one of the things it'll show is that there wasn't $8 million involved in this thing.
One of the news reported that there was 11 million.
Right. Initially, when the thing first hit the news, 11 million was the number that was thrown out.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden, the number was 8 million. I mean, that's a difference of 3 million. I mean,
it's a big number.
How is that such? How do we get to that discrepancy?
It's a big number. 3 million in itself. Is a big number.
Absolutely.
I see what
so
you're
it just goes to show there's so many inaccuracies when it comes to this case. Mm-hmm. The issue that I faced was not having representation to rebut everything and say, look, not only is it not 11 million, not only is it not 8 million, but it's actually this, and this is how much was paid back. So really we're talking about just this.
Wow.
It became magnified. It became this salacious story, and it becomes what people are talking about, and then the news media gets a hold of it, and then they present this claim of cleaning up corruption, and then they put my face out there because I'm supposed to be the corrupt one, when that's the total opposite of the type of person that I've been. I've been a giver. That's what I love to do. I'm a people person, and it really did hurt, but I have hope, because I know that I'll be able to prove from a documentation standpoint what actually took place. And that's what keeps me very hopeful in the natural sense. In the spiritual sense, I mean, it did hurt, but my faith in God is
greater.
Oh my goodness. Now I feel that the platform has been created. It's just allowing me to talk more and more about my Savior. I consider this a wake-up call. There were some things that the Lord wanted to adjust in my life, and I wasn't necessarily ready to just make those adjustments, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Everything going good in my life, songs on the charts, platinum album here, working with this artist, really having all my needs met, not wanting for a thing. And the Lord was like, look, there's some things I want you to do. Sometimes we can get comfortable in where we are in life, and then a shakeup happens. Now, I told the Lord, I said, well, you didn't have to shake it up like this.
Like this. Not this much, Lord.
But his plans for us is that we may prosper in his way. And so I've accepted the mantle and said, Lord, mold me how you need to mold me. And I promise I will not veer off at all. I'll make sure that my antenna is up when it comes to discernment. I'll make sure I'm a blessing to everybody I come in contact with. And I'm not going to allow this situation to cause despair to me, because then the enemy would have won. If I just give up, if I walk around with slumped shoulders and I complain and just point the finger to people. No, I'll take an introspective look and say, look, I can't worry about everyone else. But as for me, I'm getting this thing right.
Now, normally, Mike, I like to keep it real. And normally someone saying that I wouldn't believe it. I'm being honest with you. I wouldn't go for it. I would say that what you're giving me is a complete facade, and you're giving me church, and you're giving me cliche. And for some reason, I believe you. For some reason, when I pulled up today, straight from the airport, and I saw your face, when I talked to you on the phone, I couldn't believe your temperament. Seriously, real talk, Mike. I could not believe it. Yeah. You weren't crying. You weren't freaked out. Maybe it may be a little bit of that going on in the inside right now. I don't know. But for some reason, I said there's something different happening. And if I could be even more honest with you, someone asked me, they said, what do you think? What do you think about what's going on? I said, I don't know why I feel this way. And this is my, and maybe I shouldn't say this. Maybe I should just get the story and not put my opinion on it. But for some reason, I just think you got a hold of something a little bit greater, something a little bit different because of the way you're handling the situation. This would break the average individual. Do you know what I mean?
I got you.
And for some reason, it's your shoulders are really strong because that sentencing, that day, what did you feel when that sentencing came down for? Is it 14 years?
Yeah, 13 years, 9 months was the official judgment. It was a tough day. I mean, I have my family there. I have my wife there. And, you know, just to hear some of the testimony that went up before the judge actually rendered his sentence, it was tough, you know.
Tough, Mike, come on.
It was tough.
It had to be heart-wrenching. It had to be the worst day of your life.
Yeah. The way I looked at it is there's an escape out of this situation because all of the facts haven't been presented. And so I knew that. I was watching everyone in the courtroom, from the court reporter to the judge to the prosecutor. I saw everyone's motivation. I said, this person wants this because this helps this person here. And I saw myself, I saw the people out in the audience, and I said, you know what? Ultimately, this is a stage. And this stage needs to be used to win people to God. There's no way I should be receiving a 14-year sentence. I've never been in any legal trouble ever in my life. Never had an illegal substance in my body. I've tried to live life prim and proper. Yeah. How in the world do I get this sentence? There are people who have killed people who have gotten less time. Something is up. And that's when I stopped trying to view it from just my natural mind and said, well, Lord, speak to me. It's loud right now. It's a lot of people saying things, but let me get into a quiet place and just speak to me. And what he was showing me is, look, this is greater than you. I have a world that I want to save. And I have people in the earth that I need to use in order to get my word out. And I've chosen you. And I'm like, oh, man, like, so this is how you do your choosing process? That's where I was.
Right.
Like, this is painful, Lord.
Yeah.
But he said, but I've given you the grace for it. And so it seems like it should be the worst day of my life. It does.
Yeah.
But then I look at someone like Tim Hunt, who was the creator of the investment, who lost his life. He died in 2011. He was never investigated. Obviously, he wasn't charged and convicted because you can't do that to a dead man.
Right.
But he lost his life. At least I have my life to move forward and make the best of my life. And then for those who did get hurt, now I'm able to talk to them through mediums like what you're giving me now, to say, look, it was never my intention to hurt anyone. You've heard a lot of things, but you've heard wrong. Because the entire motive of the media was to tear down my name, my family's name, who's been a blessing to millions around the world, to cause people who may even be on the fence when it comes to church to get off the fence and say, you see what happens when you deal with church people?
Wow.
The notions of I was in church pulpits. So this, where did that come from?
It said that the news said that you were in churches and you were in the pulpits and you were getting church people to give their money. Is that true?
That is not true. Now, there were meetings that were held in churches by people who were affiliated with the investment, but I was not in church pulpits telling people to give me money. That was never what took place. But I will say this. I recognize that it's a better story for people to say that I was in churches when I'm a Winans.
Sure.
And if there's no one rebutting that, then that becomes fact.
Sure.
And so many things have become fact out there. I don't know half of the things that they're saying out there. What I do know is that God's grace and his mercies is new each morning.
Every morning.
And my strength does not come by my own might, trust me. Anybody staring at any time away from their family, that's a daunting situation. But I know that there is liberty at the end of this tunnel. And I know that the things that will take place as a result of this testimony are well beyond my realm of understanding. that's what I do know. I don't know every nook and cranny, every place I'll go and speak, every person that I'll be able to touch through this testimony. But what I do know is that when it is shared, there will be burdens removed and yokes destroyed forever. Because you can't fake a sentence of 14 years.
No, you can't.
You can't fake it. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
And this is not, let's play church. Trust me, that's over.
It's so over.
This is real life.
Yes, it is.
This is real stuff here.
Absolutely.
And so I'm not putting on a facade. I wouldn't come on your show if I couldn't stand behind the words that I'm stating.
Right.
And I'm just thankful that I have my life. I have a wife, a beautiful daughter. I have an opportunity to make situations that went wrong right. I have my family in support of me. And I have people like you who are willing to even allow me to tell my story.
Let's talk about some songs. You said you've been blessed. God has blessed you. What songs? Let's talk about your songwriting. Did you have a hand in albums that you've written on? Artists that you've worked with?
Well, work with a lot of artists.
Okay. Been blessed to work with who?
Haven't been blessed to work with you yet, which is a problem.
Whatever. Anyway, moving on.
I signed a publishing deal some years back with Diddy.
Mm-hmm.
So I've worked with him, produced singles with him, Chris Brown, New Edition, Danny D. Kane, Day 26, Michelle Williams. I mean, the list just kind of goes on and on.
What's your greatest hit?
I'll say Come to Me with Diddy and the girl from the Pussycat Dolls,
Okay.
Nicole Scherzinger.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that song was actually for the group Danny D. Kane, but Puff said, look, I want that. So that was one of the big hits that I had.
Were you excited when you signed that into that what is it called, the Hitman?
Yeah,
team?
Bad Boy Hitman.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh.
Yes.
Was that so exciting for you?
It was exciting.
How old were you when you did that?
I've been working with Puff since I was 22.
Wow.
So Lord, I don't want to date myself, but that's almost a decade ago.
Wow.
And I didn't officially sign until I was 26, but I had done so much work with him.
Okay.
I wasn't ready. I didn't want to take the first deal.
Sure. Wow. So you have an amazing track record writing music, and that's your life.
Writing and producing, that's how I've made a name for myself in the business. Of course, my family is more so known for being the artist.
Sure.
I saw all that entailed and wanted to...
And you did it a little bit.
I did it a little bit.
Yeah. And you were good at it. I loved you and your video. And it was so good. And you had so much personality and stage presence. And the camera loves you. Absolutely loves you. But that's not where you wanted to keep going.
I wanted to do more behind the scenes. I enjoy the production aspect because once you get it right that time, then the world gets a chance to hear it.
Yeah.
Being an artist, I'm not ruling that out. But it's a little tougher.
Yeah.
You know, but songwriting and production, that's my thing. Concepts, taking situations, being able to put lyrics to it and composition and really just bring out the best in artists.
Sure.
That's my thing. And it's interesting because during this entire situation, I felt like I was away from my true element, you know, what I feel most comfortable doing. And I had to take some moments away and just say, you know what, let me go back to what comes natural to me.
Yeah.
And what comes natural is creating music. And so I did a song called My Side of the Story that really talks about how I wasn't able to speak. And the only one that was able to hear my side of the story was God. And he told me he would never leave and he had mercy on me, but others couldn't hear it because I was told not to speak. So imagine just having a gag order and you're a person that likes to express themselves and being told not to talk. And the only one that's able to even hear you in the midnight hour is God. And so I feel like although I've written all these songs for these trailblazing artists, that was probably the most touching song
that you've ever written?
Ever.
Out of all of the things that have been said about you, out of all of the things you've heard, I'm sure there's so many things out there that you've heard and haven't heard and this said and that said. What is a complete lie that you've heard? A complete lie.
That I stole $8 million. Do you want me to go down the list?
Please.
There are several things that I'm a swindler and I'm a silver-tongued con man that I admitted to taking people's life savings because I wanted to see people suffer.
Wow.
I mean, all these things written, and I'm sitting there like, wow. And at first, I didn't pay attention at all to the news reports until it was time for me to really dig down and present certain things to my new legal counsel. I just stayed away from it. And maybe others have felt more sorry for me than I even many times felt for myself because they were following every single rumor. But then when I did get back into finding out what was reported about me, it did hurt. You know, because now it's not just me that you're talking about. You're talking about my wife's husband. You're talking about my daughter's father, my mother's son. You know, and the way it affects them is a little bit different than how it affects me.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in some situations in my life where I've had to exercise my faith. Never any faith episodes like this.
Sure.
And so it did knock me back for a while. It took me off of my rocker, made me feel uncomfortable, made me skeptical about people who I even allowed to sow into my life.
Sure.
And really kind of made me second guess people. The enemy wanted to get me to a place where I didn't trust anybody. And in the earth, you need people. No matter what you think, you have to be able to have a relationship with people to be able to advance and have a successful life. Yeah. And so I told the Lord, I said, look, I don't care about being in any leadership position no more. I don't care to handle another dime for anybody else at all. Again. I don't want to hear the word investment. And I'm just kind of through. And the Lord, over time, just kind of, he caused my heart to be softer and softer and softer and get back to the person that I've always been. Mm. The enemy wanted me to harden my heart toward all men and to look at people and say, there's no good in that person. But that's not my nature. My nature is to love people. So even though I tried to harden my heart, I was always ready to hug or always ready to smile or always ready to say a kind word to someone, even though inside I was bleeding. You know, even though inside I just wanted to just cry. Yeah. But I recognize that trials and tribulations, they come to us all.
Yes, they do.
There's an evil day attached to every man, contrary to popular belief. But it's how we deal with that determines our witness. And so I'm sure you've dealt with situations in your life, and you didn't necessarily want those things to happen. But since they did happen, you might as well go ahead and make it worthwhile. And so I'm in that position right now, never facing anything like this ever before in my life. I didn't think that people had that much venom in them to say such things about a human being. I didn't think that people would be so inconsiderate to say things that they know are not true, but for the sake of looking like a hero over here, they'd say it. I never knew that people who said that they'd be with you in the middle of the night and that they loved you would be so quick to flee as soon as a little heat got turned up. I never even knew that people who considered themselves your friend for years could denounce it at the first face of adversity. But now I know, and trust that I may have given to people in the past, I now just give it to God and allow him to bring the people to me. Because, you know, when you're a loving person, you welcome everybody. Yeah, come on in. You can come in the house. Go in the refrigerator. Just meeting them.
Sure.
I wasn't guarded at that time in my life. You know, I can admit it. I was leaving my door unlocked, you know, just thinking everything was hunky-dory in life. Because that's what I wanted to believe. I always want to believe the good in people. Because that's where God is found. Mm-hmm. It's the evil in people that is, you know, distorted, and it causes such division amongst men. So ultimately, when it comes to this thing, I just want to be a light, even in a dark situation. Because if I choose to be stressed, then they'll just say,
I knew it.
I knew it all along. And I can't give that satisfaction.
What was your biggest mistake through all of this? What do you say when you did a video and you said, for my part, that's why I pled guilty. I want a resentencing based on my part. What was your part? What was your mistake? What was Mike's mistake?
My main mistake was once I found out that the investment was over, I did not immediately go to the authorities to let them know. Do I think that I would have still received persecution? Absolutely. I would have possibly still been in a position to where I was facing some type of time, just based upon the way that the court of public opinion is what really affected the courts.
Okay.
But it seems like the judge and the prosecution in this case capitalized off of the fact that once I was made aware that it was no longer legitimate, that I continued to receive money in. The misnomer there is that I wasn't doing so for the sake of my profiting. I did so because I'm trying to find out how can I find a legitimate investment that can take care of this outstanding debt. That's why I reached into my own pocket and paid my own money that I had acquired from music, is because I don't want anyone to lose. But my mistake was not going to the authorities. But at that time, when there's nearly $1 million that's supposed to be given to you to give to other people, and then all of a sudden you're told that it's not there, that's not the most comfortable situation. And I think people looking from the outside in would say he should have done that. I can't argue with that. Do I think that all those people would have done what they said I should have done? That's a different story. But to answer your question, I think that that was my greatest mistake in this case.
Yeah. Did you know anything about oil bonds? Did you understand it fully now that you look back? Did you understand the investment? Because when I look back, I didn't really understand YTB like I thought I did. I explained it to others.
Right.
But if you asked me a whole lot of questions, I would give you to the person that was over me that recruited me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I really didn't understand it. Did you understand it?
Looking
the
back,
crude oil bonds.
Not fully, no. What I did know is that I was successful in a certain field. I knew that because of that, and because of my nature and my personality and my reach to people, that I had a certain level of influence. I mean, things are case specific. Education is case specific. So the person who can fly a plane at 30,000 feet at midnight may not be able to back up a semi truck into a little space. So education is case specific. I know music and I know people, but I didn't necessarily know oil investing. And so whenever you're introducing anybody to anything, you need to know all of the parts so that it's going to be tried and true and truly successful. So people hung on my word, people who I trusted and that trusted me, they hung on my word because Mike's a good guy. You know, look at things that he's accomplished. Look at the type of person he is. There's no way he would do anything to hurt me. Now, they were right in that. But the issue is that I did not know everything I needed to know about the oil investment. I didn't know that, you know, Tim Hunt held the keys to so much. Had I known an extra strategy or known that there wasn't really one, I wouldn't have gotten involved in the first place.
You never would have gotten into it.
Absolutely not.
And you wouldn't have let people invest into something that you knew.
No, because the thing is, I invested my own money in this, and I lost everything. And so I'm not going to bring anybody into a situation that I don't feel comfortable about.
So let's put it out there. This is what people want to know. Did you know it was a Ponzi scheme?
Absolutely not. I did not know it was a Ponzi scheme. I didn't even know what a Ponzi scheme was. The Ponzi schemes seemed to get popular when the whole Bernie Madoff thing came about. But my situation happened before that even came out in the news. So I didn't know what a Ponzi scheme was. Probably 95% of your viewers didn't know what it was. What I did know is that I didn't want to continue doing what was going on. But I didn't know what a Ponzi scheme was, not at all.
Did you make 11 million off of people?
I didn't make $1 off of anyone. I lost money. There are people who did profit, a lot of people who did. Now knowing that it wasn't a legitimate investment after time, you know, those profits weren't, I mean, it's not right. It's not, people probably didn't pay taxes on that stuff. Sure. But I didn't make a dime. I lost money. I lost my music money. I mean, I took it from another source.
Yeah.
and pay people back. So I
That
didn't
was
make a dime.
one of the biggest lies. Is that what you're saying? That was one of the biggest exaggerations, is that Michael Winans has $11 million that he got off of people's senior citizens, off of working families in the community, off of church members, that you walked off with $11 million. Is that true? Is that accurate?
I did not walk off with $11 million. I didn't walk off with any money. Not a dime.
How did you buy your homes? The news has, he has a home in West Bloomfield.
Yeah.
He has a home in Livonia.
Yes.
Those are 2 homes.
Yes.
How did you get those homes?
Well, it's interesting. You're the first person that ever asked me that.
Yeah.
Those homes were purchased well before the investment even started. We're talking about an investment that lasted from, and you can look at the court documents, it says October of 07
07.
till September of 08. All you have to do is look at the public records to see when I purchased my homes.
So all of this went down, this $11 million went down in a year? It happened all in one year?
Reportedly, alleged $11 million. It wasn't $11 million. There are numbers that are just being thrown out there, and no one's asking the tough questions. Where is the $11 million? You can't just...
Well, let me ask the tough question. Where is $11 million?
That's a very good question.
Thank you.
And I wish I had the answer to that. What I do know is that I don't have $11 million. I did not steal $11 million. I didn't steal $8 million or whatever million that they've thrown out there. There was a substantial amount of money that was involved in the investment, but there was no $11 million involved.
When people gave their money,
let me stop you.
Yes.
You mentioned, how did I buy those homes?
How did you buy those homes?
I bought those homes through my salary through music production.
Wow.
I bought those homes prior to this investment.
Way before 07 or 08.
Way before, but again, here's the thing. If you show homes and you have disgruntled people, the first thought is...
He bought those homes with my money.
Absolutely. It's the court of public opinion, swaying the public to view me as a villain. Just go look at the public records. I'm not doing a he said, she said things. I'm about documentation. If you think that I bought my home during the investments, look at the court records that show you when the investment took place, and then look at when I purchased my homes. And you'll be able to have the answer, and you'll be able to say, you know what? He bought those homes before this investment.
Yeah.
That's just documentation. That's not he said, she said.
Clearly documented.
Yes, ma'am. And I want you to do your research when you get back.
Oh, you think I won't? I will certainly do that, because it is a matter of public record.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the hard questions that we need to tackle right now, $11 million, $8 million, millions, millions, millions of dollars. Mike Winans, prolific songwriter, he's a swindler. He is a con man. He used his name to make millions off of little old ladies, hardworking women of God, and he has $11 million. He would go and he would do these talks. He would do it in the churches, and after he finished talking, people would hand him over $30,000, $7,000, $100,000 for these oil bonds. Did that happen? Did they give you personally the money and you put it in your bank account? What happened to the $11 million? Where is the $11 million?
Well, nobody gave me money in my hand and said, here's $30,000.
That never happened.
No, that didn't happen. I mean, there are people on television saying a whole lot of stuff, and I just want to see the evidence of that. I mean, we live in a land of camera phones.
Yes, we do.
Of video.
High technology.
Yeah, exactly. From far away places.
And a paper trail.
Exactly. The $11 million, I'm glad you asked. What happened is they took my tax returns from all of my businesses that year. My personal money, my music money, money that I made from real estate. And the gross receipts of that came up to around $10.6 million.
Of what? Of everything that you were doing?
Of my gross receipts.
You had multiple streams of income.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so they took my gross receipts, not my actual income, but my receipts. They didn't look at any expenses that I may have had, which you have expenses, of course, when you run a business.
That's right.
And they said $10.6 million of gross receipts. All of that money is scheme money, $11 million. And so that got plastered.
Wow.
For a couple years. But then all of a sudden, $8 million came.
Yeah.
So why are they saying 11 million and then all of a sudden saying 8 million?
Right.
Doesn't that seem a little bit weird.
Yeah, $3 million is a lot of money. So where did that $3 million
Difference comes
Yeah.
from? Well, when I sat down with the authorities, they said to me, they said, Mike, we have reason to believe that you were involved in the investment. We believe that you are the leader of the investment. But this whole situation is an accounting nightmare. We've looked at your records. Just as much money that has come in has gone out. We need to know who's owed what, and we need your assistance. And so that's one of the reasons why I felt even comfortable going with the guilty plea. I was told by my counsel, look, they'll be lenient with you. Just basically lay down, give them all the information that they need. And I told them at that meeting, without having my records next to me, that I thought maybe about $8 million was involved. But I didn't have my records with me. Afterwards, I found that it was substantially less than $8 million, but that's what I told them. That got leaked to the press.
Wow.
Because, you know, they all know each other. And now it's that I ran this $8 million scheme based off of me saying what I thought was approximate, not based off of true documentation. That's where the $8 million comes from. That's where the number comes from, that meeting.
So where did the money go? Was all of that money in your account at that time?
Oh, absolutely not. I paid back more than 75% of the money that I received in. More than 75%. So this thought of that I stole $8 million and I have $8 million in my account and I'm living high off the hog, that couldn't be further from the truth.
So let me get this right. Because it said in the initial news program that aired this, is that you said all of the money that people give or donate are going to be put into an account, which is my American bank account. And I get to trade at a higher yielding Saudi Arabian bond because I'm going to use your money to trade at a higher level.
Correct.
Well, if that makes sense, because if you're saying that whatever I had in my account, I was able to pay back 75% because the money was there the whole time. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's interesting because that is what I told people, because that's what was told to me by Tim Hunt.
Right.
What I ended up finding out was that there were some other things that were going on and that what was being presented was not actual. And so, again, I did not have the expertise of crude oil investing.
Right.
And so I'm taking the advice from someone who I believed had expertise, and come to find out a lot of what he told me was just not true at all. And not only was I duped and people who were connected with me, but there's a history of this going on with Tim Hunt. This is not the first time that money has come up lost and people have been incarcerated.
But you didn't know that.
I had no clue. Again, he came as a referral from a friend. Sometimes that has the ability of causing you to take your guard down when a friend introduces something to you. And so I didn't do my due diligence. I'm thinking that we're all in this thing to just have a good time and to be able to better our lives. And that's the only reason why I shared it with people. This whole thing about old ladies giving me Social Security didn't happen. And the thing about it is, these people, I would like to find out what they're standing on. Who did they give their money to? Because I'm not saying that they didn't give their money, but who knows? Maybe they gave it to someone else. After my charge came, I ended up finding out that there were people who were receiving monies in the name of Mike Winans, not giving it to me, and then doing their own investment. And then when things went sour, they pointed it to me.
Wow.
And so I have the name. I have more to lose. I am the one that's in the quote unquote spotlight. And so then there's the fall guy. Let's just point to him. Let me tell you, if there are millions of dollars involved in anything, it's not just one person that's involved in it. That's just not how the world works. Right. But again, I'm not here to try to implicate this person or that person. I'm here to say, look, this is the mistake that I made. I'm responsible for X, Y, and Z. Sentence me on that. But don't sentence me on fictitious numbers. And the fact that my defense didn't come to my aid, it really looked like I stole all these people's money.
How did you pay back 75% of the people's money?
Well, a lot of it came from my own pockets, from my music business.
And you were willing to do that?
Absolutely, because it was never my intent for anyone to hurt. So, look, I work long, hard hours, just like the next person does, doing my profession. But I recognize if there's someone hurting, if there's someone without, and I have any part in it, I want to make sure that they're whole. It was never going to be a situation where, even if the authorities didn't get involved, where I wouldn't pay people back. I don't need the authorities to make sure that I'm a person of integrity. I was going to do that anyway. But there's this whole thing of let's clean up corruption. This is a bad guy. Come on, really? There are people out there really doing some crazy things. Now, I'm not saying that people aren't hurt. There are some people who are hurt. But there are more people saying that they're hurt who never gave their dime to me. And they know that. But it's not up for me to pass that judgment. Vengeance is not mine. They'll have to deal with that. You know, the fictitious claims, I can't wait to the restitution hearing. I can't wait till everyone has to now bring the documentation of their claim. Because what I do know is that that number of claims that's been out there in the media is going to dwindle so low. And I just want the news to really be fair and report that number. Because I know it's salacious to say 1,200 people. I heard 1,200. I heard 600 one day. I heard thousands. I've heard 11 million, 8 million, 20 million. It's like shooting in the dark. But I have bank records and I have documentation. And that's what I want to be able to provide to the court so that I can be sentenced fairly.
And the FBI agents, and you're saying the police and those that came to you and said, look, this is an accounting nightmare. Can you please help us?
Yes.
And when you finally showed them the paperwork and you were honest and said, here's all my things, they showed the money that was coming in was also going out.
Again, the prosecutor's job is to prosecute. That's what he's there for. He's not there to be on my side and to make my case for me.
So this money that they're saying that you took is not somewhere in a Swiss bank account. It's not hidden somewhere, and you were actually getting the money and it was actually going out, and they saw that.
Absolutely.
Wow.
They saw that. It's a lot of foolishness that's going on.
People could say, well, all right, Mike, all right, but you keep naming someone that's now dead.
Correct.
How do you answer that? How do you speak to that?
I'm not blaming anyone that's dead. I'm just presenting the facts, and that person happens to be dead.
Right.
It's two different things. Ultimately, I don't want this thing to become a Mike is now trying to get out of a prison sentence. He did wrong. These people are actually telling the truth. Look, I have bank records. I want to present them to the court. I have canceled checks that came from actual institutions that are under the FDIC, government agencies, where there was money going to human beings for returns. And a lot of people, I found out, even in the claims, I was able to find out all the people who made claims. There was a lot of people who got paid back and profited, who still made a claim because they thought, well, wow, if I make a claim, maybe I'll get more money. So they say that I'm a person of greed.
They did admit that, though. They did admit that there are some that actually doubled their money.
The majority.
They could have got out then. But what they said is they took that money that was doubled because they saw that it worked. Is that what got you in it? Because you saw that people were actually making money.
Oh, yeah. There were people who made money and who walked away, sitting pretty. All I'm saying is that I don't have that money sitting in any bank account. I have canceled checks that will show that I wrote funds out and people cashed them. Many of the people who are clamoring as claimants, saying that they're owed money. And so that's why I'm looking forward to the restitution hearing, because then it'll be myself and all those who made claims against me. And then we can just compare and contrast. This doesn't have to be a mystery. This is not Matlock. This is simple numbers. 1 + 1 is always 2. Wow. No matter if you're here in the United States
or on Mars.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so that's all I want to do is just do that. We don't have to get into the hysteria and to the sensationalism. Let's get to the facts. And I'm sure that once the facts are presented, a different story is going to be told. And there'll be some people who viewed me a certain way, and through God's grace, they'll be able to see the truth and recognize that a lot that has been claimed is not true.
Will you be able to forgive once that happens?
Absolutely. One of the things that the Lord showed me is that if I didn't forgive Tim Hunt, that people wouldn't forgive me. And so I've learned, look, no matter what, forgiveness is not so much for the person I'm forgiving, but it's for my own self to be able to move forward in life. I can't control what other people are going to say or write or do about me. But what I can control is my reaction toward that and how I proceed. I'm not going to allow this situation to dictate who I am.
Sure.
This is not the last that you'll hear from Mike Winans. There's much more to come. And it'll be positive. And there'll be people who write negative things because there are people who like to see negativity. They feast on it. It actually wakes them up in the morning. I cannot take that road. I have to always take the high road. And when I make mistakes, admit those mistakes. But when I don't make mistakes, not plead guilty to those mistakes. And that's one of the things that I did because I was not knowledgeable of the entire legal process. Again, totally green, but...
You've never been in trouble in your life?
Never. Never.
So you just followed your counsel?
I followed my counsel, and it was poor counsel.
But you didn't know that?
I had no clue that I was receiving poor counsel.
Yeah.
I thought that I was receiving the correct counsel. And I'm a person that likes to take instructions. And so if my counsel, who's had a history of practicing law, tells me do thus and so, that's what I did. But now I know you got to really be girded up, and sometimes you got to get a team, not just within the law situation, but just counsel around you to say, how does this sound? Does this make sense?
Yeah.
To be able to hear from the elders and those who have been down the road a few times.
A couple more questions I want to ask you that are outside of the legal part of this thing. The personal side of it. What has this done to your marriage?
What has this done to my marriage? It's actually caused us to become stronger.
Is that cliche, Mike?
It sounds cliche, but it's real. My wife, we've been knowing each other for 14 years. So she knew me when I had no mustache, when I had no songs on the radio. She's watched this whole thing unfold with my image being torn to shreds. So she knows me. She's seen me from so many different spectrums. And she said, look, first, I'm your friend. And I love you. And I know your heart. And I'm staying with you because I know who you are. And they don't. So in the midst of all that, we had to really draw close to one another because that's all we really had at many times. So when I say it made us stronger, it sounds cliche-ish, and I don't like cliches either. It kind of rubs me
because your
the wrong
writing
way.
is not cliche.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You find a way to say the same old story in a different way.
Absolutely.
As a writer, so.
It did cause hurt, though.
Yeah.
At times, it may have even caused her to maybe look at me and say, how did you get yourself into this situation? Of course, arguments ensue, but that's my best friend. Steph is my best friend. She's been there for me thick and thin, and she's like, I'm riding with you because I know who you are.
That's big.
It's huge, and that type of love, you can't overlook that.
No, sir.
You can't overlook that, and so I'm very appreciative that she stayed with me during this time because had she not, I'm not sure how I would have responded. I may have done some things reckless, not necessarily, the worst case that a person may think about, but I may have spoken out of turn, spoken incorrectly, maybe gone into the media too quickly. Maybe would have felt like I'm not letting anybody in because the person that's close to me left. You see what I'm saying? So her staying speaks volume on so many different levels.
So what surprised you in a hurtful way through this whole thing? What was the biggest hurt through this whole thing that you didn't see this one coming?
Great question. The thing that hurt the most throughout this whole process was people who I've known for so long in my life that I've given to. I mean, given so much to. People who I was willing to just give my last to. People who I allowed to even stay in my own home for free. People who were getting evicted out of their homes, who called me and I said, don't worry about it. People who said, you know what? I'm here for you no matter what. To see those people walk away, to talk and gossip around other people, to spread personal business about myself that only I entrusted them with. To see that was interesting. It hurt so much. But then, because I have a way of trying to see the glass half full all the time and not empty, I said, everybody's not necessarily built for this level of adversity. So you know what? I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, that doesn't seem like the popular thing to say. The popular thing to say is eye for an eye. You know what? Skip you. I don't want to see you again. Many of those people, I've taken their phone calls once they start to hear my side of the story. I'll still give out a stretched hand and say, I love you, because my love for them is not based upon their love for me. And so there's so many similarities, and I'm not comparing myself and saying that I'm Christ by any means, but I'm starting to understand the motivation that Christ had. He knew something that everybody else didn't know. He knew that we would all need mercy, even though it was man that crucified him. So he knew the end result out of the whole situation. And that's what I've tried to mirror, is there's an end result. And this is just a part of the journey. There may become a time where I have to be there for those people who left me. And if I hold this grudge against them, I'll be holding the blessings that God has for me back. But more importantly, I'll be holding back the blessings that they need. So I've had to clean my heart daily and say, Lord, clean my heart, because you know it wants to harden.
Sure.
But clean my heart toward the person that puts this expose out there, saying that I'm this type of person. Clean my heart. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Bless them even. Those who despitefully use me. Those who have claimed to be my enemies, God, still bless them. Because it's not so much about them that determines my fate. It's how my relationship is with God from this point forward. And I don't want anything hindering me from getting God's best in my life. Nothing. Not a grudge, not a news story, not people lying, none of that. Because if I do that, then the enemy is won. And I've done and experienced too much in this situation to allow the enemy to have victory. Oh, no. And I recognize that it's through clean hearts that we're able to be made pure and to move forward. And it's not dirty hearts. All that revenge stuff, that'll kill you. That'll take you out of here. Trying to get back at a person, eye for an eye, that leads to death and destruction. It's forgiveness, move forward. Forgiveness, move forward. That's what it is. And when you think about it, that's the basis of our faith, is forgiveness. Christ dies and he forgives those who kill him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. And this situation has made me really have to look at this faith that we proclaim and say, Lord, is this really what this is all about?
Right.
You know, because when you go through adversity, sometimes the first thing to do is to denounce things, to say, you know what, that don't work. I don't want to, you know what, that's I had to center myself and say, what is this really about? And what this is about is not me. It's not even really about everyone who was involved. It's about a greater picture. It's about people being able to see forgiveness, people being able to see restoration, and ultimately people being able to see vindication.
So you believe that you are going to be vindicated?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you believe that you will do the whole 13 years?
Oh, I don't believe I'm going to do 13 years in prison. Not at all. No, it's not going to happen.
What if you have to do?
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And that's not a dig against you. You have to ask me the question.
Yes,
it's not going to happen because I've already released my faith.
Sure.
In the spiritual, and on the natural, what do I have? Documentation. So those two together, I believe, will ultimately lead to my vindication.
How can someone help your cause of being vindicated? Those who support you, those who say, well, I something about him, I believe. Something about him that tells me he didn't do this. I want to support him. What can they do?
Well, to be of assistance to me, one of the things you can do is just pray. To just pray that the strongholds will be just dissolved and that the truth will be able to come to the light. One of the other things that you can do is to go to MikeWinans.com. There are several things that you could go on and participate in that will be of great assistance to me. Again, it's MikeWinans.com. Everything lives on that site. You'll be able to hear interviews. Hopefully I'll be able to get some audio to put this interview onto the site. You'll also see my address to the public. You'll hear the song My Side of the Story, and you'll see all types of things. So just participate. Go to MikeWinans.com. I feel prayers coming from people daily that's been uplifting me and keeping me in good spirits. I pray that you do the same. But please go to MikeWinans.com, and that would be such a great blessing.
Is there anything else that you want these people at home that are watching to know about you? Anything at all? What
I want people to know is that I am a person of integrity. And right now, my integrity has been compromised through this situation. It hasn't changed my heart. I'm still going to love people. I'm still a person that's willing to just give and give, because it's better to give than to receive. It's just something that happens in the heart when you do so. I am going to make sure that everyone who lost legitimately is taken care of. That's going to happen. That would happen whether this was a legal case or not. I want people to know that no matter what your thoughts, whether you like me or not, get to know the Lord. And when I say that, it's to have a relationship, just like you and I are talking. That's how we have to start to be with Jesus. There's so many things going on in this world. There are people dying every day, loved ones, people dying of disease. You got brother stabbing brother in the back. You got this person talking about this person behind their back. We have so many calamities that are going on. And really the one true centralized answer is Jesus. That's really what it is. I'm not a churchy guy. I've never been. I've been the guy that hasn't always proclaimed my faith to everybody. I mean, if you ask me, Mike, are you a Christian? Absolutely, yeah, I am. And I was more so, let my works show that I'm a Christian, as opposed to me saying it. But I also realize that there's power in speaking, because people are able to hear, even if they don't see you. And so I'm not going to let a day go by where I don't let people know where my help really comes from. When you're facing a sentence of 14 years, your help does not come from just your fellow man. Your help comes from God.
And it can't come from your own strength.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It can't. It's not by my might. It's not by my power. Now, all of these different scriptures, they've started to resonate, and they have life in my life, as opposed to just being something that's quoted. I'm living this Bible thing out now. The story of Joseph is not just a story that appears in Genesis. The story of Moses is not just a story. I'm living it today.
Right.
And I want to be able to be a blessing to as many people as possible, because, man, life is but a vapor. I mean, you're here today, and for some people, they're gone tomorrow. And if I can't touch every single person physically that's been affected by the situation, I want them to know from the bottom of my heart that I'm sorry for any calamity in which I've caused. And even people who know in their hearts that they had no dealings with me, I still love them, because I've been charged to do so. And that's the only way to live this life, is by loving other people. No matter what they may say, you still love, because we've been charged to do so. And if it was easy, we wouldn't have to love our enemies.
Yeah.
We just love those who love us. But even the heathens can do that. There's a difference in having to love those who have decided that they were going to despitefully use you. And I've just made the decision that I'm going to love them, because it's better to love than to sit around hating people.
Are you going to pastor, Mike?
Well, pastoring.
It seems like this situation.
Lexi, let me tell you, I've tried to hide up under every table to get away from pastoring or preaching. And it just seems like I can't run away from it. I'm not saying I'm going to pastor, but what I do know is that what I have to speak to the public is something that needs to be heard. And so I'm just going to say, Lord, however you want to use me, then I'll do so. I mean, when you get to this point,
listen,
and you've received persecution, you just throw your hands up and you say, where you want me to be.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm going to be. If you send me to Iceland, it'll just be me and my Bible and you, Lord.
That's it. And I'll go.
And I'll go. There was a song, Winans Phase 2, we did years ago called It's All Right, Send Me.
Yep.
And in the chorus it said, anywhere you lead, I'll follow. If you need someone, Lord, I'll go. If nobody else wants to go, you can send me. And when I was 17 singing those lyrics, it didn't resonate like it does now. You can send me, whether I have to go to a correctional facility for a while to be a blessing to someone else. If it means that I got to get out here and just proclaim, I'll do that. If you want me to put this down and never touch that again, I'll do that. because it's not worth trying to do my own thing when there's already been a path laid before me. Obedience. In this case, is definitely better than sacrifice.